This is Karl from Nile. You're watching Heavy New York.
Heavy New York.
What is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater, and we got Karl of the almighty Nile. Thank you for your time, man.
Well, thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Yeah, with his custom Dean guitar. It's great to be able to see it in the flesh. But first things always first, before we move on to this beauty right here, your newest album is Vile Melodic Rights, which just came out this past Friday. Just want to give like a rundown on how the making of this record was, recording, all that fun stuff.
We spent a long time on this one. From the time we started writing till the time we delivered it, it's been about 2 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's the longest we've ever spent.
Yeah, I think What Should Not Be on Earth, the previous record, came out in 2015 or something like that, right?
Right. So we toured that one for a good 2.5, maybe almost 3 years. Yeah, before we started writing the new one.
Yeah. Did you consider this just a direct follow-up to What Should Not Be on Earth, or do you think that this record kind of stands out a little bit more in the Nile catalog?
I don't think it's a follow-up. I think this is more of a renovation, a rebirth, reinvigoration, a re-envisioning.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people who may not have heard it yet, like, did you like maybe adjust the sound? Could people be expecting something different than what they normally would get from Nile?
No, it's definitely a Nile record. It's probably the best produced Nile record that we've ever achieved, but mostly it's about the spirit that went into it. Yeah, there's a lot of renewed energy going on.
Was there a preconceived idea on the making of this record, like on how you wanted it to sound, or was a lot of the songwriting like improvised and things kind of happened organically?
Well, there was plenty of forethought, but we let the creativity flow on its own. What we focused on was the team dynamic, the getting everybody like working together, being on the same page. That right there just was so helpful to us this time. It's just amazing what you can do when you got 4 guys that are actually like working together.
Yeah. One thing I was curious about is because, as I mentioned before we started rolling, this is like my 4th or 5th time seeing Nile tonight, and it's always such a different experience seeing you live than just listening to the album. Like, for you, is there a similar energy that you channel into the live presence as you do in songwriting mode, or is it a completely different mind frame altogether?
I think it's a totally different mind frame. For me, the live show is about bringing the band and the fans together. To participate together in the music. Writing and recording, that's like, it's a whole different animal. To me, it's the energy that goes back and forth and is shared with the band, the audience. That's like its own thing. Mm-hmm. It's a special thing. But writing and recording the record, that's a whole different thing because you're putting it together and you're, at least for us, being meticulous about the craft, the craftsmanship, the building of the song. It's 2 totally different things. To me, they really don't mix, right? I can't do one while I'm doing the other. They got to be separate.
One thing I'm always curious about is every time I've seen you live, it always seems like you played with like a different type of band. Like, I saw you with a Cannibal Corpse at Summer Slaughter, which, that's a death metal, that's a death metal fan's wet dream right there. But like, then I saw you tour with like Soulfly, for example. And like, I've seen, I know you toured with like more metalcore bands, some more like many different styles. So have you noticed maybe a different type of audience or reaction depending on like the tours you've been on?
Well, of course. I'm reminded of some of the earlier years when people didn't know who we were. And nowadays people know who we are. So there's kind of like, no matter who we're playing with, there's still some Nile fans there. And so that's familiar ground. It's familiar territory. But there was a time when we didn't have an audience. So the audience could be radically different depending on which other band it was. Like, we toured with Neurosis once, right? And certainly touring with Neurosis is a different experience than touring with a Morbid Angel or a Cannibal Corpse. A whole different energy in the room. But nowadays, people know who we are. They kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, of course, of course. Now, in terms of your guitar playing, like the way you execute riffs and solos and all that, is there a music theory element that you follow? Like, I have to work off of this scale or in this key, in this mode or chord progression, or is your guitar work like rather improvised in a way?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call the recorded work improvised, but it's not necessarily set that it has to follow this particular scale or this particular mode. I think when you think in those terms, you're putting your creativity in a box. Sometimes you gotta let it be free. Like, you can understand the theory, but that's not everything. Music is more than just the sheer mathematics and the calculus or the periodic chart of elements, right? There's more to it than that. There's, the intangible, the stuff that comes from your soul, the personal expression. You can't write those things down, but they exist. They're real, and they're a part of any kind of music.
When it comes to like the songwriting process, do you have to put yourself in a certain element or a certain like atmosphere in order to get inspired, or do you just sometimes think of an idea completely out of the blue?
I like the ones out of the blue, like just random. And they can come at the strangest times. Or sometimes, there's days where you have to write something, right? And you don't know what you're going to write. So just anything could be an inspiration. That light switch over there could be an inspiration. You got to work with what you got.
Yeah. If you write a song about that light switch, I'm going to be honored that I saw the making of that. Yeah. And I have two more questions for you before we move on to the guitar. But here's my favorite question to ask every artist, because it's always the hardest question for everybody to answer. How do you know when a song is done?
You don't. There's, I think, at least for us, there's a point where you've exhausted all your possibilities and there's nothing left that you can think of. Well, okay, then maybe it's time to move on to something else and work on that. But is it really done? Man, no. That's why we have deadlines, because you have to have it finished by this date so that you have a reason to finish it. Otherwise, it would go on forever. No, we could do this. We could try that. We could try this other thing. You could go on for an eternity. Sooner or later, though, you got to make some decisions. Because, well, that's what deadlines are for.
Of course, of course. And final question before we move on to the guitars. I know you guys are originated from, I forgot, North or South Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, okay. So was there like a metal scene in South Carolina that like you guys were involved in back in the day? Or like was Nile's goal to just completely get out of South Carolina in order to get the name out there?
Well, the music scene that we have in the Carolinas at that time wasn't metal. It's not a state known for its metal, but nowadays there are more metal bands like Olkoth, Lecherous Nocturne. They're from our hometown. It's completely brutal. But that's now. When we started, we were in a desert. Yeah. So the goal definitely was, let's get out of South Carolina. Because there was nothing for us in our home state. We could play a few local shows, but you know what? What was a death metal band doing in South Carolina? No one cared. Yeah. So on the one hand, though, that also gave us complete liberty to do whatever the fuck we wanted. Because no one cared or gave a fuck what we were doing. It gave us a totally free hand. We could do whatever the fuck we wanted to.
There you go. Mm-hmm. There you go. And now let's move on to this beautiful guitar. What is it about Dean guitars in general? I mean, Dimebag used Dean guitars. I know Kerry King's using Dean now. Like, what is it about Dean guitars particularly that you find yourself so attracted to?
They're great guitars. They play great, sound great. They've got a very distinctive metal look. I mean, look at this headstock, right? If you look at that, That is like someone giving you the metal horns.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, like in terms of like your own custom model, what do you like look for? Is there a specific pickup that you have to use in your guitar work, or a certain like neck length, or anything like that?
I'm a big fan of the Seymour Duncan Invader. In fact, I think it's like one of the things that makes a Nile guitar tone is fucking huge magnets. Right, they really have this big thick sound.
Yeah. I can only. It sounds even thicker when it's in the amp.
Well, we should hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to playing your, I know that some people like to use the V models because they're lighter too. Is that a specific reason why you?
No, feel how heavy this bitch is.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is not a light guitar.
Wow.
The other one, the one that's the Carl Sanders signature model, it is lightweight. It's a nice lightweight mahogany. This is a friggin' neck through maple with ebony fretboard, maple top. Yeah, this is a fucking beast of a guitar. Yeah.
Definitely is. Definitely is. Look forward to seeing it in action tonight. Yeah. And before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else you would like to promote for Nile?
We have a new record.
There you go.
Just came out. Vile Melodic Rights.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Karl. Everybody, we are here with Karl of Nile. Pick up the new record if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.